I went from being stuck in a 9 to 5 that took over my life to creating my own freedom. My name is Leo and I run a business with my best friend Francesco that now generates over $12,000 per month in net revenue. I can work on this business from wherever I want and whenever I want, and right now that's in Panama. I've been traveling here for the past month with my girlfriend and plan on staying for another month. And believe it or not, but the only thing that made all of this possible for me is content. Years ago, I didn't even think that this was possible. As my routine was taking over, I just thought, everybody around me works a 9 to 5, it's just the way that it's supposed to be. And I really thought that I was destined to do the exact same thing. But deep down, the life that I was living wasn't what I wanted, and I just felt that there was another way. Fast forward a few years and I built this freedom for myself, and along the way figured out a model that you can apply to achieve the same results. And in this video, I'll break down the whole thing for you, but to do so, we need to start from the beginning. Just a few years ago, I was working a 9 to 5 in finance at a top sportswear company in Amsterdam. On paper, it looked perfect. Stable job, good salary, really big company, literally the kind of job that your parents want you to have. But time went on and I never really felt like I fit in the place that I was in. At some point, I remember sitting in the office and looking out the window that was to my left, and I was feeling that something was off, like I didn't belong in the place I was in. Somehow, like I was destined for more, or at least for something different that really fit what I wanted for my life. For a while, I accepted the feeling because it was the normal path around me, and I also didn't really see any alternative. But as time went on, that feeling never went away, and if anything, it just got louder and clearer. And the job was just increasingly draining my energy, my mood, and just my overall peace and happiness. But at the same time, I had always been drawn to making content. I'd been making YouTube videos ever since I was a kid. I think I opened my first channel when I was like 10 or maybe 12. I always had a lot of fun making videos, and I think I always saw the potential behind the concept of content. The idea that I could reach hundreds, if not thousands of people by literally just sitting in a chair in front of a camera. Like, the concept was crazy to me and still is to this day. That I could help someone without ever meeting them in real life. And deep down, I knew that if I didn't do something with this passion of mine, eventually I would probably regret it. And in that same period, I was also developing a passion for music production. I'm not really sure how my passion for music production grew on me, but it did, and it did really, really fast. Because I just loved it, and although I wasn't an expert, I was really focused and I was really in love with the process of learning something new every single day around this passion that I was developing. And I think this is one of the core concepts, that I wasn't super knowledgeable around music production at the time. I just loved it so much that I was willing to dedicate hours on hours on hours to learn everything I could about the craft. And because of that, I was making progress really fast. So I connected the dots and an idea came to me. Why don't I merge my two passions and start sharing what I'm learning about music production through content on YouTube? And that's truly where the universe did its thing, because I then met Francesco on Instagram. We had the same passion for music production and the same drive to make content. And so we began to think about the content that we wanted to make. And I could feel that everything was about to change, but there was one obstacle that almost stopped me before I even started. I was facing a problem that I just couldn't shake, which was, I don't feel qualified enough to create content. Although I knew that I had what it took to make videos, I just felt like nobody was ever gonna watch. I looked up to all of these other creators and I just felt like, why would I make content? Because everybody out there is so much better than me already. Somehow I had created this insane amount of pressure in my head, making me believe that I had to be perfect in order to create content, that I had to be an expert before starting. So in my case, that I had to be a professional music producer in order to teach others about music production. So I kept asking myself, am I qualified enough to make content? Everything around me was telling me that I wasn't, because I didn't have that much music production experience and I wasn't an expert. As I said, my knowledge and my skills were nowhere near a professional level when I first started out. But I already knew that at some point life is all about the crossroads. I could either take a risk and jump and try to make content to create a better future for myself, or just go back to a 9 to 5 that I already knew that I wasn't happy with. So I jumped, and regardless of what I knew at the time, I started to share my expertise through content on YouTube. Francesco and I started making YouTube videos teaching Italian producers how to make beats. And in just a few months, we hit 10,000 subscribers. And I really couldn't believe it. I was kind of shocked at the time because just a few months ago, I was contemplating whether I should take a risk or just stick to my comfort zone, which wasn't so comfortable, but basically sticking to what I knew was a normal path. And I was just feeling super proud that I took the risk because it seemed like it was starting to work out. To us, what really mattered was basically a proof of concept. It was the first proof that what we were sharing was genuinely valuable to people watching. Because again, and I can't stress this enough, we weren't the best music producers in the world, not even close. We were beginners, we kind of sucked actually. But as we learned new things ourselves, we were willing, more than most people, to share everything through content. That's literally all that it was. That was our only advantage at the time. Because although it took me a long time to figure out, expertise is not a title that someone gives you like you're an expert. It's literally just the gap between what you know and what somebody else still needs to learn. And by helping these people online, I was putting myself in a position to learn even more, because the more I would learn, the more I could share. It was like a positive vicious circle. So sharing before I felt ready is, at the end of the day, what got me out of that chair I was sitting in Amsterdam, looking out that window. Just starting and taking a risk is what got me into this position that I'm in today, a position of freedom. But although this sounds wonderful, making content built us an audience. It did not build us an income. And although an audience that trusts you is powerful, that trust alone does not buy you freedom. We had thousands of people watching, but for a long time, that's all we had. We had no way of translating that audience into an income to make us free. So we had no other choice but to figure out the rest of the equation. That's when we built, without even realizing it first, the model that not only changed our lives, but that also enabled the freedom that we have today. It's called the solo expert business, which very simply put is all about turning your expertise into income through content. Why solo? Simply because you don't need a team, you don't need an office, you don't need any capital to start. It's a very lean model. And it works in 3 steps with 1 prerequisite. So the prerequisite is simply your expertise. And by expertise, I don't mean a degree or 10 years of experience or a certification. All you need is some kind of skill or knowledge that you're willing to share that somebody else needs. And if you're watching this video up until this point, I'm pretty confident that you already have this skill or some kind of knowledge. The question is whether you're using it. Now, the first step out of 3 is content. And you have to see content simply as a vehicle to get your expertise in front of an audience. It's the vehicle that will organically bring leads into your business. And it's not about going viral. It's not about having 1 million followers. It's not about that at all. It's about consistently showing up and providing value to the right person until they trust you enough to invest in your solution. Without content, you could be the most knowledgeable person in your niche and still have 0 clients. Because again, content is simply the bridge between your expertise, your solution, and the market. Now, step number 2 is the offer. Because once you have a content system that works, you'll need something to sell, to make money, and to buy that freedom eventually. So as we said, expertise is an ever-going thing. You're never gonna truly be an expert. You're gonna keep learning and keep sharing. It's a vicious circle. But once you have an efficient content system and an audience that you've built, you will need an offer to monetize a solution to answer the pain points of the audience that you've built. Now, the structure or the format of the offer really doesn't matter. It could be a community, a course, private coaching, and e-commerce. It really doesn't matter. The only thing that really matters is that it solves a real pain point for your audience. And the offer, especially at first, doesn't have to be complicated. One simple solution that solves one real problem is more than enough to start. And step 3, once you have your offer up and running, is none other than delivery. And unfortunately, delivery is often overlooked or not even mentioned, but it really is the thing that distinguishes a one-time small business from a business that can actually become sustainable over time. Because as people buy your offer, you deliver, and those very same people will come back to the different offers that you can propose that can tackle different pain points that they're facing. So delivery is really, really, really important and should never be overlooked, because it's not enough to sell. You need to deliver on the promise that you made to the person that bought from you. So now let me show you what this looks like in practice with the business that Francesco and I built called Hypn Records. So just to give you some context, we have our YouTube channel that today has almost 41,000 subscribers. Our goal with our content has always been and will forever be to just help as many Italian producers as possible to become better music producers and to make high quality beats. And as you can see from our multiple offers, we made almost $160,000 from June of last year, 2025, to June of this year, with the revenue being split between Stripe and Shopify. So if we go back to the model and take our real life example, Hypn, our expertise was music, right? It was music production. Our content strategy has always been, and again, will always be very, very simple. We don't believe in having to post in 80 different platforms to reach the right kind of person. We are fond believers that YouTube plus Instagram plus now a little bit of TikTok is more than enough to reach the person that we want to reach and to convert them eventually by building trust to our offers. So we upload on average 2 YouTube videos per week. We have maybe 4 short form that we upload on Instagram and on TikTok per week. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. We do have multiple offers because over time we understood that our target audience had multiple pain points that we could solve. We have our academy, which is essentially a digital community and a course uploaded on Circle, which is a course hosting and community hosting platform. We have Hypn Vault, which is our e-commerce in which we sell digital products, essentially the sounds that producers need to make beats. We have Inner Circle, which is coaching, and we have our camps, which are live events that we host about twice per year. But it's important to mention that when we started, we only had one single offer, which was our Shopify e-commerce store. And over time, we added all of these offers to solve pain points and to obviously increase our revenue as well. And today, our academy accounts for about 70% of our yearly net revenue. And so what we're doing now and what we're really focused on is creating systems that allow us to deliver without having to spend hours and hours and hours behind the computer every day. Because the beautiful thing about business, and in particular about this business model, is that once you have these things, I mean, expertise, we already said that it's ever going. Content, once you have your strategy and you know how to make content, it's simple, it's done. You just need to put the work in and do it. Once you have your offers built, all you really need to do is keep learning every single day and deliver to your customers so that they come back. But once you have an audience and you set the foundations of your offer, it's just about making sure that your customers are happy and making sure that you keep learning so that you can keep sharing knowledge with them, which is essentially providing value to your audience. And in turn, it will build trust so that your audience will buy even more from you. And so again, right now, we're just super focused on delivery because we spent the last year setting the foundations of this business down. So we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need a new offer. We just need to make the content that we know works. Obviously, always giving ourselves some room to experiment and to test new things because it's also really fun to do. And we don't want to lock ourselves in a little box, but basically just creating the systems to automate the business as much as possible so that we can live a life of freedom where we can travel and do whatever we want. And again, this very simple model is what has been allowing me to surf in Panama and to spend a lot of time outdoors every single day. It's the model that is allowing Francesco and I to truly feel free in life. And it's that simple. Now, obviously, applying the model takes time and it requires a lot of work, but I just love the fact that something so simple has enabled Francesco and I to live a life of freedom. And I'm not telling you this to flex or anything because, by the way, my life is not perfect. Don't ever believe somebody who tells you that their life is perfect. But I'm telling you this because I was sitting in a chair in an office in which I did not feel good, an office in which I did not feel like I belonged in. And I started with zero audience, zero experience, and I've made it this far. And I know for a fact that you can as well. So to wrap things up, the model is very simple. It's the expertise, the skill, or the knowledge that you already have today, plus 3 things: content, offer, and delivery. And the model works in any niche, not just music production. Most people overcomplicate things or wait to feel ready, but the ones who actually win in the long run are the ones who at some point decide to jump, the ones who start before they feel ready and who stay consistent long enough for it to actually work. And for us, it didn't take weeks, it took years of work. But just looking at where I am today, it was worth it. Because on the other side of that work and of that consistency is a freedom that most people can only dream about. If you want to learn more about making content for your own solo expert business, Francesco made a video walking you step by step. Go watch that one next.